All right, we're going to make sure this is streaming before we get started. Just give it a couple seconds. All right, there we go. All right, welcome in. Today is February 10th, right? We're a couple days shy of Valentine's Day. If you have somebody special in your life, make sure you get them something nice. Make sure you guys do something nice. And if you don't, try again next year, right? Celebrate this one as Happy Singles Day. Go out, get yourself a drink, cry yourself to sleep at night, and come back stronger and better next year. What we're going to be talking about today, what we're going to start off with is one lying Howard Lutnick. Howard Lutnick is one of those people that said that he had very, very limited interactions, engagement with Jeffrey Epstein. Turns out that he's a fucking liar, which we expect. Most of the people in Trump's orbit, in Epstein's orbit, most of the people in the Epstein cinematic universe are all liars. Jeffrey Epstein, Donald Trump, Howard Lutnick, all of the people in the Trump administration, all liars. Howard Lutnick gets dragged in front of the House Appropriations Committee to testify after additional information ties him to some sort of relationship with Epstein. So here we have a clip from Forbes. Let's go ahead and check this out.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secretary Lutnick, as I said in my opening statement, you led people to believe that you had cut off all contact with Jeffrey Epstein after the 2005 encounter you and your wife had in his apartment. But as I'm sure you know, the Epstein files show a very different record of interaction. Why did the Epstein files show you coordinating a meeting and planning a visit with Jeffrey Epstein on his private island in December 2012?
All right, so real quick, if you're not caught up on all of the controversy with Epstein and how Howard Lutnick was tied to him, I think he's going to explain right after this that they were neighbors. But what Howard Lutnick originally said is he walked into Epstein's house because they were neighbors. He had a massage table in the middle of the floor. He was like, yo, what's up with the massages? And Jeffrey Epstein basically alluded to the fact that he likes getting happy endings. Howard Lutnick looked at his wife. They were like, yuck. Said they were never going to go and meet Jeffrey Epstein ever again. My wife is over here laughing. They said they were never going to meet Jeffrey Epstein ever again. Apparently that's not true because 7 years later, he turns up in some sort of emails with him. So let's let Lion Howard Lutnick explain how he said that his one interaction was the only interaction that he had with Epstein. And then later it comes out that that's not necessarily the truth. Those are alternative facts.
Thank you for the question. I'm glad to be here to make it clear that I met Jeffrey Epstein.
No, the fuck he's not. He is not glad to be there. It's a little cutesy. He's not glad to be there. But let's go back for a second and let him get his full statement out.
Here, that I met Jeffrey Epstein when I moved to a house next door to him in New York, right? And I met him then. Over the next 14 years, I met him 2 other times that I can recall. 2 times, and that is none for 6 years. So 6 years later, I met him, and then a year and a half after that, I met him, and never again. Probably the total, and you've seen all of these documents, of these millions and millions of documents, there may be 10 emails connecting me with him, probably about 10 emails connecting me with him over a 14-year period. I did not have any relationship with him. I barely had anything to do with that person. Okay.
Yeah, just like Bill Clinton didn't have sexual relations with that woman, right? The issue is Howard Lutnick told us up front, I only met this dude one time. Like, we were neighbors, but I didn't even like him. Do you see how we have a hard time believing you, Howie? Can I call you Howie? We have a hard time believing you, Howie, because what you told us initially is you met him, you were disgusted, you never wanted to visit him again, never wanted to have any sort of interaction with him. Turns out not to be the case. So you saying, oh, well, we only exchanged 10 emails. I talked to him one time 6 years later. You have a history of lying, right? You and all the people in the Epstein cinematic universe, this is you guys' way of living. So we have a hard time taking your word for it. So forgive us if we're a little bit skeptical of what it is that you have to say.
Secretary Lutnick, I think you understand the root of concern here. It's the way you described very emphatically your first encounter with him in his apartment, said you were disgusted, would never have any contact with him again. Did you, in fact, make the visit to Jeffrey Epstein's private island?
I did have lunch with him as I was on a boat going across on a family vacation. My wife was with me, as were my 4 children and nannies. I had another couple they were there as well with their children, and we had lunch on the island. That is true, for an hour, and we left with all of my children, with my nannies and my wife, all together. We were on family vacation. We were not apart. To suggest there was anything untoward about that in 2012, I don't recall why we did it, but
Mr. Secretary, again, as I said,
You did it because you guys had a relationship. You don't just go hang out and have lunch and bring your nannies and your entire family and the whole kit and caboodle and you're on your boat. You don't do that with just anybody. You have to have some previous relationship beyond just being neighbors. Do you think I'm going to go over? I didn't even go over my neighbor's house to talk to him during the Super Bowl at all, right? Not that he's a bad guy, but I just don't know him like that. You got on a boat and went to this guy's island with your nanny, your boat, your wife, your kids. Your kids met Jeffrey Epstein, this disgusting pervert. So obviously to me, obviously to you, in my opinion, it wasn't that big of a deal what was going on in his private life and all of these relationships that he had. That's my personal opinion. And I think that, like I said, Howard Lutnick is a lying piece of shit. Now, all of a sudden, he has complete and total recall of every single encounter that he had with Jeffrey Epstein, how long it was, who was there. But previously, he said they only met a single time. You know, the devil's in the details. So once a liar, we got to assume that you're lying now.
There's not an indication that you yourself engaged in any wrongdoing with Jeffrey Epstein. It's the fact that you believe that you misled the country and the Congress based on your earlier statements, suggesting that you cut off all contact when, in fact, you had not. When you visit...
Let me guess, he just forgot. The most notorious black male sex trafficker in the entire U.S. history, he just completely forgot that they had met on multiple occasions. Reportedly, they had business together. They had lunch together. He forgot all of this stuff. No, I think not.
Visited the private island. Did you see anything inappropriate during that visit?
The only thing I saw with my wife and my children and the other couple and their children was staff who worked for Mr. Epstein on that island.
And you realize that this visit took place after he'd been convicted, right? I mean, you made a very big point of saying that you sensed that this was a bad person in 2005. And then, of course, in 2008, he was convicted of soliciting prostitution of a minor. And yet you went and had this trip and other interactions. Did you have a dinner in Epstein's New York City home in 2011?
No.
So the information that suggests that there was a dinner with Woody Allen and Woody Allen's spouse at the Epstein residence, there's nothing to that. Is that right?
I actually don't know what you're referring to. There was, look, I looked through the millions of documents for my name.
Yeah, so what he's saying is, I'm not going to admit to anything that I can't verify is in the documents. That's really the long and short of the story. Because first it was one interaction. Then it's like, okay, you guys caught me. It's in the emails that I went to his island. Now I have perfect recall. I'm going to tell you everybody I went with. Then the gentleman asks, okay, what about the year previously? I talked about you going to the island in 2012. What about 2011 when you walked next door to your neighbor's house and had dinner with him and Woody Allen? By the way, I think Woody Allen is the gentleman that married his stepdaughter. So he's also a disgusting pervert. And you see the type of circles that Epstein runs in. And Howard Lutnick just casually allegedly having all sorts of interactions with these guys left and right? But as he said, hey, I don't recall this being in the emails. So he's not going to admit to it.
Just like everybody else. And what I found was there was a document that says that I had a meeting with him in May, I think, for an hour at 5 o'clock.
Okay.
Not dinner or otherwise, for an hour at 5 o'clock.
All right. There's also a reference to the fact that Epstein had expressed an interest in meeting your nanny. Do you know whether Jeffrey Epstein ever met with your nanny?
No, I saw that. I had no idea what that was about. It had nothing to do with me.
No
as far as
interaction
I know.
at all with him on that.
No, as far as I know, no.
Would you, Mr. Secretary, be willing to ensure that the file is complete to share with this committee and the Congress your own records, any records you have that relate to Jeffrey Epstein?
I will surely talk about that. I hadn't thought about that. I have nothing to hide. Absolutely nothing.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a load of, what do they call it? That's a crock of horse shit. He has nothing to hide now. He has something to hide because he hid all of those different interactions. And obviously, to me, there's more. But, you know, time is the best teacher. So in time, we'll learn more. About 3 million documents have been exposed. They said there's another 3 million, so 6 million total. And just the connections that we're seeing right now is plenty of exposure. Let me go ahead. I did a video earlier about Thomas Massey talking about 6 new people. So let me just give a refresher on that. This is from Axios. It says Epstein file review yields 6 new likely incriminated men, lawmakers say. This 6 new likely incriminated men. This is not talking about Howard Lutnick. This is not talking about Trump. This is not talking about Prince Andrew. These are all people that have been named, right? Not necessarily saying that everybody has something untoward to do in terms of like the stuff that Jeffrey Epstein is accused of. But this is 6 new men. They only had 2 hours to go through these documents. Let's say they went through, like I said in the other video, 1,500 of the documents in 2 hours with all of the people that they had there, right? Let's say they went through 1,500 documents. They found 6 people that they want additional questions from, that they want to interview out of 3 million documents. I would say that that's a lot of fucking people. It says the Justice Department redacted the names of at least 6 men who are likely incriminated by their inclusion in the Epstein files. Representative Tom Massey and Ro Khanna said after reviewing unredacted versions of the documents related to Jeffrey Epstein. It said Massey told reporters that one of the men is, quote, pretty high up in a foreign government and another is a prominent individual. The lawmakers didn't elaborate on what they meant or specify the conduct at issue. So my understanding is Pam Bondi is supposed to be, she's supposed to have her round of flogging from the House Appropriations Committee tomorrow, Wednesday. So we'll see how things go with her. But this is the playbook. Delay, deny, depose. That's what these guys do. That's what everybody in the Trump administration, everybody in the Epstein cinematic universe, they say, hey, that wasn't me. And then when they get caught like Shaggy, you caught me on camera. Okay, it was me, but you need additional context. It's all bullshit. But like I said, time will tell. Let's go over to something a little lighter. This is from More Perfect Union. It says tenants from Raytown, Missouri just want a historic 4-month rent strike. I wanted to check this out. I absolutely love when, the everyday person wins. So let's go through this. Let's take a look and find out what what they won over on this strike.
Oh yeah, that's a win for the history books. These tenants from Raytown, Missouri went on the first rent strike in their city's history. And after 4 months, they won big, keeping over $100,000 of withheld rent in tenant hands. These tenants faced egregious living conditions, including mold, AC outages, hot water loss, leaking ceilings, yet still faced crushing rent hikes. So in October, they went on rent strike.
I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I can't even see how we can live in America. People are living in these conditions and they're expected to continue to pay the rent on a facility, on a living situation that's literally falling apart. There's mold all over the walls. Like, where is the city going to step in and say, like, you need to upkeep your property, right? People shouldn't be having mold and leaky ceilings and, continuing to pay rent. So I absolutely love that they went on this rent strike, but let's get back into it.
4 months, they didn't back down, despite their landlord's attempts to evict tenants and intimidate them with police. And they just won a game-changing agreement. Here's what they want. 2-year leases, rent reductions by $90 to $150 a month, good cause eviction protections, a schedule for major pest, bug, mold, water repairs by the end of March, no retaliation against tenants for organizing. All 27 eviction notices and 7 lease non-renewals against striking tenants dropped. And after withholding $110,000, tenants get to keep $71,000 and won an additional $45,758 of rent debt cancellation in court.
All right, so What interested me about that is on January 1st, when Zohran Mamdani came in, I don't know if you guys remember, he started going to all of these different.
When did this happen?
The first thing that he did when he got in to, you know, his seat as mayor of New York City, he went right to the apartments and said, "Yo, let me see the living conditions that you're in, because we're going to make it better up there in New York," right? And people were like, "Oh, how dare he? What is he doing? This is a publicity stunt." On and on, right? People just hate Zohran Mamdani, so they're going to throw anything at him to try to, you know, diminish what it is that he's trying to do. So if you don't remember, let me just check this out, and we're going to play it at 1.5 speed, because it's not necessarily about it's not necessarily about what he's saying, it's about what he's doing. So here we go. Here's the 1.5 speed. We're going to zoom through this.
I can't remember exactly the year.
A year?
More than years.
Mayor Zohran Mamdani inspecting broken floor tiles in an apartment on Clarkson Avenue in Prospect Lefferts Gardens, getting a first-hand look at the deteriorating conditions, from an eroding bathtub surface to a rust-covered, corroded bathroom pipe and red paint splashed about.
And you told the landlord about them?
Yes.
And what was the response?
Call some numbers, but nobody want to do anything about it.
Residents in this same building and in others owned by the landlord Pinnacle Realty say they've experienced similar conditions, from leaking bathroom ceilings to moldy drywall. Tenant unions rallying in response, demanding stronger tenant protections.
Like I said, it's crazy that you could be living in America and you're basically living in squalor. It's disgusting. And, you know, there's 8 million people in New York City. It's the most prominent financial city, or however you want to say it, in the entire world, right? So the fact that people could be living in squalor like this, I didn't understand it when they were attacking Zohran Mamdani for trying to do something about it. They were like, "Oh, well, the communists is coming in and asking for people to live in stable conditions." Like, yeah, you're supposed to do that. You're not supposed to be having fucking mold. And New York is disgusting in the first place. If you've been around the channel long enough, you've heard me denigrate New York. They just throw fucking piles of trash 6 feet high on the street. They have an enormous rat infestation. I wear a size 12 shoe, and they're about the size of my shoe from what I've seen. The very, very few times that I had the courage to go up there, right? I will never, ever, ever get on the New York subway again. What a disgusting place. Here's one more thing with Zohran Mamdani before we move on. This is when he was saying that, you know, he was going to get rid of all the junk fees up there in New York. And I just want to know why we can't have nice things. Why can't we have a Zohran Mamdani and these types of policies? And this, even if you don't necessarily like the policies that he has, just how quick the action is, how quick he said, "Hey, this is what the agenda is." You know, he's what, 6 weeks in, 5 weeks in, and he's moved so fast. They've got the funding for K3, which is 3-year-old kindergarten. They're looking for funding for K2, and they're looking for facilities. They're doing this thing where they're fixing roads and getting rid of junk fees for tenants, all sorts of stuff. Here it is real quick.
Have you ever rented an apartment in New York only to find yourself not just paying rent, but application fees, amenity fees, credit score checks? In a city filled with old buildings.
Does anybody remember that during the pandemic, there was a scam going around where people were collecting application fees? Like, if you apply for an apartment, for example, you pay about $50, maybe $75, and that's just to put in your application. And there was a scam going around where they were taking, you know, 50 applications at $50 a pop and just pocketing that money because it's not refundable, right? And that's what he's talking about, these junk fees that people are paying, and you get nothing in return.
That could use some tender loving care. Some landlords are taking advantage of the housing market to gouge tenants with outrageous fees, all while leaving them trying to survive in homes with collapsing ceilings and sinking floors. It's time for that to change. We need a citywide crackdown on rental ripoffs. We need to take on the indignities from those landlords who demand more than their fair share. That's why our administration is organizing a series of rental ripoff hearings in every borough. This is a chance for you and your neighbors to speak directly with us.
Yeah, that's what I like. I just want to have nice things, right? We live in supposedly the richest country on the face of the earth, and it seems like we can't have nothing nice. China has all sorts of infrastructure. We have disgusting trains and train facilities. We have planes falling out of the sky. We have allegedly Boeing getting, you know, their planes that are falling apart swept under the rug. It's ridiculous. I just wish we could have nice things. Zohran Mamdani is doing it over for New York. Shout out to the people over in what is this, Raytown, Missouri, that were able to get this, get their places fixed up. I'm absolutely happy for them, and I want to see this all across America, where people stop getting taken advantage of, just because the people that are renting to you have the money and have the power and feel like they can do it. All right, so let's talk about the Olympic athletes. The Olympic athletes have taken a stand. They I don't even know where they're competing at, what city they're competing at, but they took a stand, and when they were interviewed, they said, "Hey, I don't want to represent everything that's happening in America right now, because you have ICE beating the shit out of people, you have ICE killing people, they're deporting people, and just it's a bunch of strife and commotion in the U.S." So check out what this Olympic athlete had to say after being interviewed about what's going on in the U.S. and if he's happy to represent the country at this point in time.
It brings up mixed emotions to represent the U.S. right now, I think. It's a little hard. There's obviously a lot going on that I'm not the biggest fan of, and I think a lot of people aren't. If it aligns with my moral values, I feel like I'm representing it. Just because I'm wearing the flag doesn't mean I represent everything that's going on in the U.S. So yeah, I just kind of want to do it for my friends and my family and the people that support me getting here. It brings.
He said, just because I wear the flag doesn't represent every single thing that's happening. I represent the things that align with my morals and my values. I'm gonna be honest with you. I think that's a pretty straightforward and reasonable statement, right? Like if you were back in the 60s and there was Jim Crow era laws and black people couldn't vote and all of this different type of stuff. The gentleman that went to the Olympics, I believe, I can't remember their name specifically, and held their hand up in the Black Power fist, you wouldn't say, oh, well, these guys need to be proud of the U.S., even though they can't vote in the U.S., or even though black people are being, treated as second-class citizens. You wouldn't say that. You wouldn't say that these guys are indicative or represent every single thing that goes on in the U.S., and I feel like that's the statement that Hunter Hess is trying to make. But of course, we know how Republicans act. If you don't agree with them, then they don't give a fuck about your rights, right? You would expect that everybody has a right to free speech and can express themselves. Republicans don't necessarily feel that way. Here we go. Where is it at? Let me see. You had, what is that gentleman's name? What is that dude's name? Byron Daniels. Byron Daniels, I don't even know what the tweet is, but Byron Daniels basically said, hey, you chose to put on the flag, so you need to go along with every single thing that's happening here, even if you don't represent it, even if you don't like it. And obviously, people are like, you can have a tall glass of shut the fuck up juice. I'm not a fan of Byron Daniels at all, and I largely agree with that sentiment. And it seems like Republicans don't really stand on the business that they purport to stand on. When Alex Preddy got shot, they said, oh, well, he shouldn't have had a gun. And everybody was like, wait, isn't that his Second Amendment right to have a gun? When Charlie Kirk got assassinated and people were exercising their First Amendment, saying what they wanted about Charlie Kirk, whether it was good or bad, Republicans said, oh, well, you're not allowed to denigrate Charlie Kirk, and the left always chooses violence and blah, 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 blah. I think what these Olympic athletes did takes a lot of courage. I think it takes a lot of, I support it, right? You guys can let me know how you feel, but I think that it's amazing for them to go on the world stage and say, hey, I don't necessarily want to be associated with every single thing that's happening in the U.S., but I do love my country, and I represent the neighborhoods I come from, the people that I come from, and the values that are the things in America that are aligned with my values. All right, let's see what else we have. I want to talk about, I think her name's Maria Corina Machado. Real quick, I want to play this statement from her. I thought that this was absolutely interesting. She is having an interview with this lady from Politico. Doesn't she look like You remember in The Incredibles, the lady that had the blonde hair? Don't she look like her? She does. Yeah, she does. All right, so real quick, here's the statement from this lady from Politico and the new president of Venezuela after we went down there and kidnapped Maduro.
When do you think that Venezuela will be capable of holding a free and fair election?
We have gone through that extensively, and we believe that a real transfer process with manual voting, total audit throughout the process could be done in 9 to 10 months. But that depends when you start.
Right. Have you spoken to the president about this timeline? Is he potentially on board?
No, I have not. We didn't.
She said, have you spoken to the president about this timeline? Which president is she talking about? Obviously, she's not talking about the president of Venezuela. Maduro was kidnapped. She's the new president. They're talking about the president of the U.S. Have you talked to President Trump about potentially a 9 to 10 month timeline for Venezuela to hold their own elections? What the fuck is going on? Why would it be important to ask Donald Trump about Venezuela having their own elections? Obviously, because we will go in there and take the president if we don't like the way that they're running the country or we're opposed to the things that it is that they're doing, right? When they went down there and they took Maduro and they started selling, they commandeered the oil industry down there and we started selling it on Venezuela's behalf. They said, okay, we're going to give you 60% and we're going to take 40%. What kind of pirate robbing, what is that? What is that? What kind of game is that? I have no idea. I don't even understand how Venezuela can pretend that they operate as an independent country because Trump has his hand so far up Corina Machado's ass that he can turn her Indy into an Audi. This shit is crazy. But here we go. Let her continue her statement.
Get into those aspects yet. But I did insist that Venezuela is unlike other countries that sometimes are used as examples. Countries in the Middle East that went through, hard process of transition. In our case, look, we have a democratic culture, strong democratic culture. We have an organized society. We have a legitimate leadership with huge popular support. And our armed forces are also supportive of a transition to democracy. In addition to that, we were able to carry an election under very tough circumstances and nonetheless have people committed to vote and to defend their vote. So, if we were able to do that under such extreme conditions, imagine now.
Yeah, but have you consulted with the U.S. president about having an election? Obviously not, and he's not going to go for that, right? Like we said, Trump is going to want somebody in Venezuela that's going to be preferential to him. He's not looking to have a democratic and free and fair election. If anything, he's looking to puppeteer the election, have somebody get in there, that's going to acquiesce to his demands. They've already talked about, as soon as they went down there, getting American companies back on board to start developing the Venezuelan oil. And the message is really like, even if she's going to stay the president, you better play ball or we're going to kidnap you as well.
When we have the support of the United States government, when people feel that we are not alone and that we're finally opening our arms and feel that we're in a threshold of freedom, that our children are going to come back home. This is a moment of great expectation of hope.
Imagine if for 1 second, her name is Dasha Burns. That's the lady that looks like the blonde-haired evil lady from The Incredibles. Anyway, imagine if we were like, yeah, we'll have a free and fair election when Russia gives us the green light. Never in a million years would somebody say that America is an independent country if that was to happen. Never in a million years. So I thought that was interesting. Corina Machado, she may or may not have played a part in Maduro getting kidnapped and, her rise to power. But I don't think that it's going to be as easy as she's trying to make it seem for the next person to come in, right? Let me see what else we have. Oh, let's look at TP USA and this reporting that they had on the Super Bowl, and then I think we're going to get out of here after that.
Meanwhile, say the Super Bowl.
Yeah, so the Super Bowl was a couple of days ago. Republicans, they were up in arms. They didn't really want to see Bad Bunny hit the stage. They didn't want to see him thrive. They kept saying, oh, well, he's not an American. Even though Puerto Rico is an American territory, right? They are American citizens. They kept saying, oh, he's not American. He doesn't look like this. He doesn't talk like this. And then it turned into, hey, he doesn't speak English, so we're not going to be able to understand him. How do you think that people that are not, the people over in Puerto Rico that are not native English speakers, do you think that there's any consideration for them when the Super Bowl is happening and they can't speak English? Like Kendrick Lamar was there last year, right? Are people like, oh, well, Bad Bunny's not going to be able to understand, so we need to have such and such accommodations? No. So TPUSA, they turned around and put on a clown show of a replacement halftime show with Kid Rock. Kid Rock. This dude is probably like 70 years old. I don't even know. But let's let Fox News try to play this thing up and make it seem as if it's some big deal. But we all know it's not. Here we go.
Culture clash, 2 halftime shows, 2 very different visions of America, and 1 massive audience watching it all play out. The NFL handing its halftime stage to Bad Bunny, we just talked about it, an artist who has repeatedly made anti-ICE remarks and openly criticized U.S. immigration enforcement.
Oh, no, not commenting on ICE. What a terrible fucking guy. You mean ICE that shot 2 people in January and killed them? And then shot another lady as well? Another gentleman as well, as a black guy? I can't remember his name, but yeah, it's pretty common to have negative feelings towards ICE when they're killing people in the streets. They're pushing ladies in the snow. Like, what do you expect us to do? Like, oh yeah, ICE, keep doing your job. No, nobody's jacking that shit at all, including Bad Bunny, and that's more of a reason for people to support him.
The decision sparking backlash from critics saying this isn't just entertainment, it's a political message on America's biggest stage. In response, Turning Point, where USA rolled out their star-studded all-American halftime show featuring patriotic themes, conservative voices too. Watch.
His complaint is Bad Bunny's performance is a political statement. TPUSA is literally a political organization to capture the youth as a conservative and turn them conservative to vote, for Republicans. So why does it matter if it's a political statement or not? The fact that TPUSA is going to put on their own halftime show in response to what it is that the NFL and Bad Bunny is doing, or what they've done at this point, is a direct contradiction to what you're saying that you're mad about, right? It's hypocrisy. You're saying that you're mad that it's political. TPUSA is a political organization putting on a counter halftime show with 70-year-old Kid Rock. And this just lets you know how out of touch these people are, right? They thought that Kid Rock was like because his name's Kid Rock, that he was like a young, fresh guy that people were going to be entertained by or wanted to see. Absolutely not. And even the people that said that they were not going to watch the Bad Bunny halftime show apparently watched it because it had 135 million viewers. It set a record. I think that might be the highest ever.
The artists that have teamed up with us, I just want to say thank you to them. It's very brave of them to do this. It's powerful because what Charlie always loved and knew.
I really hate this lady, and she uses her husband, her ex-husband, Charlie Kirk, as a chess piece, right? And she's never smiled brighter than after Charlie Kirk died on September 10th for getting, we saw what happened with Charlie Kirk. Erica Kirk has never smiled brighter, and I really, really think this lady has serious mental problems.
Is that he wanted to be in the forefront of the culture war. And what better way to honor him than just to get in the middle of this and be able to offer an alternative to families? That's the thing that's so beautiful about Turning Point USA and all of our programs.
And joining us.
Yeah, what better way to honor her deceased husband than throwing a geriatric artist up there to perform and not mentioning Charlie Kirk not a single time in the entire broadcast that you did, right? What a phenomenal way to honor Charlie Kirk. And what's funny is when Kid Rock hit the stage, his entire performance reminded me of the performance that they did when Charlie Kirk passed away and they had the memorial. It was like These two things were almost completely identical. They had fire, they had lights, they had performances. So, maybe they're just a one-trick pony, but they tried. They did their very best, and they just couldn't beat Bad Bunny. It is what it is. Better luck in 2027.
Is Turning Point USA spokesperson Andrew Colvett. Andrew, I watched your show. It was great. How did you do? Do you have a sense of how many people watched?
Yeah, it was.
Whatever number they're going to say, they're going to play it up. I don't think 500,000 people watched that. Maybe 500,000 did. I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of people pay attention to Turning Point USA, but way, way more people were watching and are interested in what's happening at the Super Bowl. Nobody's turning off their thing to turn on whatever type of show or wherever the show was for TPUSA. It's just not happening.
It was kind of blew our minds actually a little bit, Brian. And we saw at one point across all the different social channels, we saw over 10 million concurrent views. So that was adding up all of Rumble and all of our partners just on the social side. So, and now the numbers keep trickling in. I mean, right now as I'm sitting here,
Are you gone for the night? Or are you coming back? Okay.
YouTube's numbers keep updating. And so we're trying to put it all together. What I can safely say is that we are now over 20 million viewers across just social. So we haven't even gotten our partner broadcasters, their analytics. As you know, sometimes the ratings take a little while, but that's 20 million viewers. And we don't know how many people were gathered.
No, I don't believe that at all. You mean tell me 20 million people turned off whatever it is that they were doing to turn around and watch TPUSA perform? No. Kid Rock perform? Absolutely not. I don't believe that in the slightest. But he can keep going ahead and peddling this lie if they want to. Let me bring this up. This is Matt Walsh complaining about diversity, equity, and inclusion, basically. So in Wokeness says a lot of diversity in the halftime lately. So this is the halftime show with Bad Bunny. You see a lot of brown people, a lot of people of color. This is Kendrick Lamar, Rihanna. I think she did it in like 2019 to 2017, and Beyonce, right? They're complaining. The people that complained about diversity, equity, and inclusion are complaining about not being included. It says, me and my boyfriend broke up over the Bad Bunny performance. Why did you guys break up over Bad Bunny's performance? What about it? You got to give me some context there. What's going on? But Matt Walsh, who, purports to be whatever he purports to be, right? Some sort of free thinker or whatever he is, right? I think he has half a brain, to be honest with you. But he said Jay-Z took over producing the Super Bowl halftime show in 2019. Since then, white performers have been banned from the show. There hasn't been a single white headliner at the Super Bowl in 7 years, with the lone exception of Eminem, who performed alongside Dr. Dre, Snoop, Kendrick Lamar, and other black artists. He's complaining about diversity, equity, and inclusion. One of the things that he says is not, he doesn't like it. They complained about all of these initiatives for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And then the one time that they're not included, they're really throwing a hissy fit about it. It makes no sense. The comments say, so you want DEI as long as it's for white people. Soon as white people don't see themselves, all of a sudden they want diversity. And I'm not saying that like white people shouldn't be included. I'm not saying that at all. I absolutely think that all people in America deserve attention and they deserve to be celebrated, including the person that the people on the right complained about, Bad Bunny, right? He's a hot artist. He's an international artist, right? He's a Spanish-speaking artist that can go down to other countries down in South America, and he can make money touring down there, right? So he was absolutely somebody that he's a hot artist. It is what it is. It says, yeah, I agree. It's hypocrisy. He absolutely hated the performance, much to my big surprise, and said things that disrespected my. Oh, are you? He's white. I can't be with someone who doesn't like my culture. I'm gonna be honest with you. That's a difficult thing. Having somebody that understands you, right? a lot of times that means like you grow up in the same place. It's not necessarily like a skin color thing, because you have white guys, for example, that grow up in black neighborhoods and they're just a product of the environment. Like you might find a white guy that likes black women, or you might find somebody that is black and they grow up in a predominantly white neighborhood. They go to a PWI, and you kind of fall in love with who's around you. So it's not necessarily about your boyfriend being white, just two different cultures. You know what I'm saying? It's difficult. I'm heartbroken. I do wish you the very best. I'm gonna be honest with you. I know that Valentine's Day is coming up. Maybe you guys can have a talk and come to some sort of amicable agreement about. Maybe you guys can have a longer talk about the performance, right? Maybe it could be a teachable moment. But I do wish you the best with your relationship. I'm sorry to hear that you guys that became such a point of contention for you. Let me see what else we have. Let's let Andrew Colvin keep lying on this Fox News show as if Turning Point USA threw a great show. Here we go.
Gathered together, 3, 4, 10 in a room, watching together. So we're going to try and put a final number on that when we can. What we can safely say is over 20 million Americans tuned in to the All-American halftime show tonight.
I looked at the pregame show. They had Green Day, the most anti-American band you can imagine. They wrote their hits album was called The American Idiot, and the lyrics reflect what he thinks of America and our policies. And then they have at halftime Bad Bunny. I mean, NFL is the #1 league in the world, and they do a lot right. I don't understand why in the year 250 they wouldn't think red, white, and blue, but you did. Lee Brice also released a song that is so appropriate about our culture. Talk about that.
Yeah, he actually wrote that in honor of Charlie. So, he has a ton of hits, and he wanted to play this one. We said, absolutely. You wrote it for Charlie in his honor, so do it. And I mean, that's what you saw from all of our performers. They did something special to honor the moment, honor how big the stage was, honor Charlie, honor our country. And you saw that from Kid Rock, who said God woke him up in the middle of the night to write another verse to that hit song, Till You Can't. And he used it to, glorify Jesus and lift up his faith and be loud and proud about that. But really, there was no agenda. It was just good music for Americans, for people that wanted to.
Yeah, I've heard that those people that were in the front row were paid actors, right? They tried to get people in there, bobbing their head. Vice President Vance was there pretending that he loves Kid Rock's music. Nobody believes it, right? Nobody believes that Vice President Vance was such a big fan of Kid Rock that he thought that was a phenomenal performance, a phenomenal person to perform, right? I'm going to read this last chat, and then we're going to get out of here. It says he helped me, and that was the one bringing the reason to it. Like I said, I'm sorry to hear that about your relationship. Maybe you can use this weekend and, take yourself out and just do something solo. Clear your head and celebrate with your family, right? Use it as a time to reconnect with your family, and I'm not sure what else to say there. But that has been the show. We've reached all of the topics that I wanted to talk about today. Like we always say, don't add to the population, don't take away from the population. This is Say It Louder, the place for discourse. Until next time, peace. Babe, look at this. Look at